Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. You're watching The Naturalist Capitalist, and I'm Reed Coverdale, and I've got David Fite back on the show again. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Why don't you just tell us what you can about what you've been doing recently? You've been getting around a lot lately, so what's going on over there?
Yeah, so you know, the more of the backstory. So like the craziness started March when Tulsi's campaign ended. We went to like 3.5 months of lockdown with my parents, which ended up where I was able to create my show because I had a lot of free time. Um, and then since then, I was in Michigan for the last month working on a state house campaign for Chase Turner, who won his campaign in a landslide. It was just the primary, but we won the primary in a landslide 2 days ago. Um, and now I'm in Ohio getting ready to go on to the next adventure. So there's always another campaign.
Sweet. So, do people seem to be waking up, or is this craziness just kind of zoned them out, or what's your feel on how people are tuning in?
Well, so I spent the last month knocking doors for a Republican primary in a pretty suburban slash rural district of Michigan. So there was a lot of like the coronavirus is a hoax kind of people that I've talked to in the last month. Plenty of like logical, we need to get our economy back open. We need to get our kids back to school, but like also wear masks and like be logical about it. Which is kind of where I fall. I think that there's a simple way to do this if we take partisanship out of it and politics out of it, because this is a health crisis, not a political crisis.
Right. Something that just came up on Twitter, it kind of resurfaced, was the Trace Act, and I was I think that it's something that almost nobody has read. They either just look at it and they see the 6666 and Trace Act, and then they just freak out. And then there's other people who are just completely ignoring it. You did a great deep dive video on it. I mean, what's concerning to me about it is, first of all, just the spending amount on it. It's 100 billion a year, and the sunset clause is very vague. It says like each consecutive year that the CDC deems it necessary or something like that. And then
Yep.
the there's another section that says like any entity the CDC deems necessary to help carry out these tasks, and there's not very clear protections in the bill either. So it's just one of those things that's really, really vague. And in my opinion, that's all our government needs. They don't even need that. They can have, the Fourth Amendment telling them you're not allowed to do, the Patriot Act is straight up illegal, but they'll still do it anyway.
Right. But now we have the ability, like they have the legal ability to spend shitloads of money tracking our every move.
Right.
They did that. They voted for that, and a bunch of those people are about to get reelected this year. So
Yeah.
it's not much you can do.
No, I mean, what I can't understand is we have these people who've been in there all these years, and they keep voting for all this terrible stuff, and we're dealing with the repercussions of all their legislation and all their votes. And people have Stockholm syndrome. Like they are addicted to a candidate or a party, and they can't break away from it. It doesn't matter how many times that candidate or party spits in their face, they're 100% loyal. And if you try to expose the truth in front of their eyes, they get angry at you. They start lashing at you, and I mean, it's crazy.
I mean, Trump said it best himself. He could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and not lose a single vote. That's, I think, the truest sentence Donald Trump has ever spoken. He wouldn't have lost a goddamn vote.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. I mean, I'm seeing, my friends who are on the right, they're posting stuff about Biden's recent interviews where he was, off the wall and making crazy statements. And they're just saying, like, look at this guy. There's no way he can handle the presidency. And then you have this Axios HBO interview that Donald Trump just did, a few days earlier, and it's just as bad as Biden's, but they're just completely ignoring it and they're acting, it's just straight up intentional blindness toward their own party, their own candidate. And, you point at, you post a link to the video on what they're saying on social media. You can just post the video right there so they can see it and they'll just completely ignore you. And I mean, I don't even know what to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Axios HBO just did a thing called The Swamp. Have you seen that?
I have not.
I've seen like the first 20 minutes in the last hour. They're watching it in the house that's playing downstairs right now. It's about the Liberty Caucus, basically. Buck, Massey, Gates, Ro Khanna, and it's basically about how these guys are in Congress fighting for freedom and liberty and trying to get rid of the corruption, but the entire thing is pro-Trump, like to the max. And I'm like, how? Like, how does Matt Gaetz exist? How can somebody be that principled, that right on so many issues, and still think that Donald Trump is a good leader, is anti-establishment, is draining the swamp? Like, has not successfully done any of that stuff, but we still see people in Congress are supporting him. So of course, the voters that don't even know what's going on are going to be doing the same thing for their congressman. Doesn't matter what they do. They're going to just keep supporting them because they have the correct letter next to their name, and they will never look twice.
Right. I mean, Justin Amash is really setting an example of what people in Congress should do. I mean, in my mind, he's the only one who's sticking to his values and exposing the system for what it is. I mean, everybody else, even people that I like, they're falling in line, voting for the same terrible, corrupt party that's just driven us further into debt, into more wars, caused more incarceration. And there's no logical explanation for it either. I mean, if you try to back, I've seen interviews where there's that give a coherent argument, but it's what they do. They're not willing to be in a mosh and just be vilified and kicked out of a party.
Right. And unfortunately, Amash isn't running for re-election, so that goes to show how, I mean, even the best don't last, and can't actually successfully do the job of being a representative. That's your job. I mean, that whole documentary, like, it's a good documentary. I would highly suggest it. It's on HBO. Because it starts off talking about like how money is in politics, how there is a legitimate price tag to committee seats or party leadership. Like, there's a huge Stockholm syndrome going on, even within Washington, of people like Gates and Massey that are trying to do the right thing. They can't. It's literally impossible. You cannot survive in Washington without taking money from lobbyists, without kissing up to different people that you shouldn't. I mean, Rand Paul is good friends with Donald Trump now, and defends him way more than he should, and he's said outright that he's only doing that because he has an ear to the president, which is important.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that ear is actually important? Because I think there might be a couple times where he's had influence on him that's helped a little bit, but I feel like if Rand Paul left the Republican Party and endorsed Joe Jorgensen, and if Thomas Massey did that would be a much more impactful move than trying to stay in the Republican Party and administer change. Would you agree?
I 100% agree. the only way that the Libertarian Party will ever be successful is when people become okay with doing something risky. You know, I work with Young Americans for Liberty. They claim to be a libertarian organization, but they they put all of their money and their time and their energy into Republican candidates because they don't have the guts to do the thing and maybe lose for a couple of years and actually enact the change that we need. They back the same pro-Trump Republican dipshits like Matt Gaetz that are not actually going to do much. They're still just going to fall in line. They're going to get corrupted as soon as they get into any kind of power, and the game is going to stay the same.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. I've kind of evolved on this because I mean, I still do like some of these people, but I feel like people who lead revolutions within a party and then in the end they capitulate to the establishment, that they've done more of a disservice than a service almost, like, I mean, maybe it's because I'm used to Ron Paul, who didn't do that. He led a revolution and then he didn't capitulate. And I think people need to be like that. They can't, if they start a movement and then in the end say, oh yeah, that was all cool, but you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna go with this this warmongering rapist. That to me is like, I don't know. I'm getting sick of it, because I've been through a couple campaigns with it, and I'm sort of fed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we had that in 2016. We had that 3 or 4 times this year. It's sad. It proves that people don't really have principles. They're just doing what's best for them, plain and simple.
Right. I mean, you look at who was principled in 2016, and Jeb Bush, John Kasich. It's like, really, like, these guys wouldn't endorse Trump, but Rand Paul did. It's like, come on, man. Like, I mean, imagine, what the fuck? I mean, I just, it's really aggravating.
Yeah. I have a lot of respect for Kasich for not endorsing him. That was a big move.
Yeah. I mean, I felt the same way. Like, I don't agree with Kasich much on policy, but he's at least been a voice of turbulence in his party. He hasn't gone along with Trump. Same with Mitt Romney. Like, I don't like Mitt Romney at all. I don't agree with him on policy, but
yeah,
same deal. He's willing to stand up and be an independent voice. Like, I mean, we can't get that from Rand Paul and Thomas Massey. It's like, what the hell,
Yeah. Yeah, if we can't get it from them, I'll take it from Mitt Romney. Sure.
Yeah. So, something else that's been really aggravating to me is I've been on this channel and on my Twitter page, I've been trying to reach out to people who are not libertarians and bring them in to the movement. And you can have, they'll not be happy with Trump or with Biden, and you'll get them on like 55 issues, and then you'll get to the 56th one and they won't agree with you, and they'll be like, yeah, no, never mind, I'm done. And it's like they disagree with half or more of what Trump or Biden want, but it's what they're used to. And so if there's a new idea in a third party they're not comfortable with, you can't get them over that hump. And a lot of times it's just something they're uncomfortable with. It's not even something they're against. They're just like, well, I don't know about that. And it's like, well, you know what your parties are going to do. You know how that works out. Why don't you just try this? Why don't you try something different? And they're just like, no, I'm just going to wait 4 more years and hope that, Nina Turner ends up being the nominee, or hope that Thomas Massey is the nominee. It's like, what fucking primary did you just sit through the last 2 cycles?
Right. Thomas Massey will never get the presidential nomination.
No.
Literally never. Not even if the Liberty Revolution happens and we have a libertarian majority in Congress. He's never going to be president. No offense to him. I don't even think he wants to be president.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so I think I'm done voting Republican and Democrat like ever. I mean, I'm thinking about even making a pledge just to not do it
There you
anymore.
go.
Like even if like Tulsi Gabbard is the nominee or Rand Paul, I mean, I just it's such a if they get in there and they become the figurehead of the party, I have no faith that they're going to be the way they were during their campaigns because we've seen how Rand Paul has changed since his campaign. Like during his campaign, he was pretty anti-establishment, all this stuff, and then he loses and drops out. We've seen how he's acted the last 4 years. I mean, he's still
Yeah.
been better than most, but he's capitulated. Then
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard, after she dropped out 4 months ago or whatever it was, she's a different person now. So, I'm just completely skeptical that these people we like, if they end up being the figurehead of one of these shit parties, that they're going to do what they say they're going to do during the campaign because they don't even do it when the responsibility isn't on their shoulders. You know what I mean?
Yeah, barely anyone's listening to Rand Paul or Tulsi Gabbard, but they are both brown-nosing their party establishment every day now. Tulsi Gabbard's a pro-Biden, pro-tracking, pro-lockdown, pro-everything terrible that's going on right now.
Yeah.
And Rand Paul is brown-nosing Trump every day.
Yeah.
And what Rand Paul is doing right now that's actually worth anything, no one's paying attention to. He wrote like some 26 bills or something like that so far this year. Some of the greatest pieces of legislation I've ever read in my entire life. They're all going to fail.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about that. Why would we talk about fixing our country?
Right. I mean, it's just so depressing, and I think people don't realize how bad it is and how the shit is really hitting the fan now. Gold surpassed $2,000 for the first time in history. And a lot of people think that means that the value of gold is going up. That's not what's happening. The value of the dollar is going down very quickly. The dollar index has been dropping steadily for I think like 2 months now. Even mainstream media outlets were reporting that they think that the dollar might not maintain its grip on global markets. I mean, these are things that just like crazy conspiracy theorists were saying, over the last few years. But now Goldman Sachs is saying that. We're still at war in Afghanistan. We tried to pull out. Most of Congress voted it down. I mean, there's all this stuff going on, and people are still in their little idyllic world of, okay, 4 more years and my favorite person's going to get into, the presidency. And even if your favorite person gets into the presidency, this idea that the president is somehow going to fix all these problems with a snap of a finger, that's what I hate. Like a lot of Tulsi supporters that I follow on Twitter, like, I mean, they have like a Christ-like image of her, and that she's just going to waltz in there and fix everything with the spirit of aloha. And it's like, that's not how government works. Like, there are things she would be able to do, but we've got to change government from the bottom up. We've got to get involved in local elections, in congressional elections. Like all these guys I've had on my show, they've come on my show because they're not getting exposure anywhere else. I mean, let's be honest. Like Brad Barron facing Mitch McConnell, that's such an important election, but nobody gives a shit. They only care about, maybe Tulsi's going to run again in 2024. Maybe Rand Paul can get it. And it's like, guys, you've got to pull your heads out of your asses. You got to get involved with the here and now to make change.
Yeah. And I mean, Brad Barron's a great example because, I would add to the list of Tulsi and Rand, Jo Jorgensen. Her winning the presidency this year is a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. I love her. She's great. She's a good candidate. she's not going to win.
Right.
We could do something serious with Brad Barron. You know, there are dozens of libertarian campaigns across the country that like we could do something serious and make some real change. Dwayne Whitmer is a good example. He's running for New York's 10th congressional district, I believe, like Western New York, almost Buffalo area. He has a legitimate shot at a win there if he could keep up with the fundraising and the media of his opponent. And then if you get down to state races, those are easy to win. That's a couple thousand doors. We can knock that in a couple of weeks. We could make sure that we talk to every voter in an entire state house district easily if we put our resources there, but nobody's doing it.
Right. I mean, Brad Barron, I saw some poll numbers. I mean, he was at like 8% in Kentucky. That's pretty legitimate, and he's going to be in debates. So, I mean, but you look at his Twitter page, he doesn't even have as many followers as I do. It's just like, what is going on here, guys? Like, we need to be, like you said, like, these are winnable races. These are the ones we should be investing in, because imagine if Mitch McConnell got beaten by a libertarian. Just imagine the impact of that.
Yeah.
And when I had Brad Barron on the show, he made the point, like, if Trump wins again and he's in there instead of Mitch McConnell, we get a way better Donald Trump than what we have under Mitch McConnell. Like, Mitch McConnell is a gatekeeper that pushes Trump toward his scary side. We also get a better Rand Paul because he's not dealing with Mitch McConnell. He's dealing with Brad Barron. Like, these are such huge changes we'd have.
Yeah.
But people don't even know who these guys are, like, on a national level, and I mean, they're like you said, I mean, they're all about Jo Jorgensen, and I want her to get as much as she can this year, but you're right, it's an unrealistic win. Like, I mean, we should be really focusing on the things we can win to prove that we're a serious party.
Yeah. And, to your point earlier about, Rand Paul being still stuck in that system, who do you think he's going to endorse in that race?
Oh, yeah. No kidding. Either nobody or Mitch McConnell. And, when I had Brad Barron on, he was kind of excusing that, like, oh, it's okay, I understand, Massey and Rand, as long as they don't endorse Mitch, that's an endorsement for me. And so on Twitter, I tagged Rand and Massey, and I just posted that clip, and I said something like, bullshit, Rand and Massey, you better endorse Barron. But yeah, you're totally right, of course they won't. Yeah. I mean,
I could see Massey possibly do. Paul won't.
No, yeah, it's that. Yeah, I mean, it's really a depressing thought. I mean, they've just got such a stranglehold on everybody. And those people that are sheep herding, which is what I'd say Rand and Tulsi are, they're sheep herders basically. Their followers are enamored with them, and there's nothing you can do to be like, hey, guys, come on. Like, they're not running, first of all, right now. And there are people who really represent the ideas that these people say they represent that you can support right now.
Right.
Like, you're so hung up on cult of personality or some stupid little, minutia difference that they have, that you're not willing to make that jump. And it's weird, like, vote shaming with the Democratic Party, like vote blue no matter who or vote red no matter who, is really heinous because those parties don't stand for anything. The Libertarian Party is principled and stands for things. All these candidates I have, they all stand for the Constitution. They stand for ending wars. They stand for ending mass incarceration. They stand for ending the drug war. All these things. They stand for all of it. So it's a party of principle. And if you want change, it's a party you should vote for. It's not like the Democrat or Republican Party. You don't have such a huge swath of, imperialists and authoritarians and then a couple good apples. It's a party that, people go to if they want to stand for something.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we're ruined by our few bad apples because somehow a group, I mean, you were talking about it earlier, you can agree with them on 55 points and then disagree with them on one and you lose them completely. You can get them completely sold on Joe Jorgensen and then they see one clip of Arvin Vohra and they swear off the Libertarian Party forever. And it's just ridiculous. But yet the fact that Joe Biden not only exists within his party but is their presidential nominee doesn't bother anybody else. He's probably the only person in politics I would consider worse than Arvin Vohra.
Yeah. So I'm trying to navigate that gray area between not pissing people off, but also telling them to snap out of it and wake up. Mm-hmm. Because I've really tried the nice, like, extended arm, like, hey, this is what we agree on. But at a certain point, like, you've got to be forward with them and say, hey, guys, here and now. So how do you handle that? I mean, do you run into that same issue or?
I do sometimes. I mean, a lot of times you just have to, agree to disagree. I mean, it's like evangelism for a religion. It takes time. It takes life experiences. It takes other people talking to them. One person is never going to turn someone into a libertarian. It's going to take them watching a couple of specific TV shows that make them think about things a little bit differently, and then a specific candidate or a specific pundit. Everybody came to the LP a little bit differently. A lot of people will say, like I say, Gary Johnson brought me to the LP, but there was definitely a distinct year leading up to that where I was becoming disillusioned with the Republican Party. And that part happens differently for everybody. And you can't really manufacture it. You just have to let it happen and be the good libertarian influence in their life. And anytime something happens that you agree on, you talk to them about it. You agree to disagree on the other stuff and don't really talk about it that much. And eventually, hopefully, they'll see some like red flag law shooting and finally go, okay, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't back the blue. Maybe I am a libertarian. Right. And then you win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I've been trying to do is get people to support ideas over candidates. So mm-hmm. Obviously ideas can't run for president or for Congress, so you have to support people. But when those people betray you and the ideas that they said they represent, a lot of people stick with the person and they betray the ideas as well. Mm-hmm. And I get, maybe I'm weird, but I get excited about ideas more than people. If someone says something that's shocking, that really catches my attention. There's that's why I really liked Ron Paul, because there wasn't anything attractive about him other than what he was saying. Like that's what got people, that's what drew people in, because he was saying things that were just so off the rocker for a Republican to say. And the campaigns I've gotten involved in since then, it wasn't the same thing. It wasn't for what the person was saying. A lot of it was for the candidate's personality or their background and
spirit of aloha.
Yes, exactly. And that's just really sad, because I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who said, I'm going to butcher this quote, but it's something like, small minds think of people, average minds think of events, great minds think of ideas. And it wasn't until I worked on the Tulsi campaign that I really understood what that meant, because it's totally true. You have people who were just totally into her, the person. And I mean, this goes with, Bernie, Yang, anybody, like
Hmm.
they're so caught up in that actual human being that they forget what ideas they're standing for. And I don't know how to break through that. I don't know how to get, I mean, I think it's a result of our culture, um, through movies we watch, video games we play, stories we read. It's all about characters. It's not really. I feel like we don't really we don't really push ideas like we used to, and so people have lost the ability to track an idea instead of just a person representing that idea. You know what I mean?
Hmm. 100%. Yeah, I mean that you listed off a couple of candidates. You can add Trump to the list too. People you said small minds think of people, uh, and I agree. We've definitely lost the idea of ideals. Uh, and then the other weird kind of juxtaposition with that is that people are campaigning almost entirely on ideals instead of like reality.
Right.
Like um I worked with a campaign recently. The guy that I was working with was a Republican, another Republican primary. So the person that I was working with was pro-Trump, pro-guns, anti-taxes, pro-life. He was those things. Where the other guy, and that's how he marketed himself. The other guy had all of the same ideals, but marketed himself as I'm an entrepreneur uh, that can do this, 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 and this to fix our state. Like, I want to do this thing and this thing. And he had some weird ideas, uh, but they were tangible. And the voters that I talked to that were voting for him, that's why they were voting for him, because he was talking about things that would actually affect their lives. Most people in at least our parents and grandparents' generation will probably not live through any personal interaction where somebody's trying to take their guns, right? I mean, having a pro-gun politician is important, but campaigning on that doesn't mean anything. You know,
Right.
in the same wind, uh, Roe v. Wade is never going to get repealed, ever.
Right.
Abortion is never going to be illegal in this country again. So voting for these pro-life candidates that spend half of their time talking about how pro-life they are and how we have to protect the sanctity of life and these unborn babies don't deserve to, instead of just listening to that, we could have politicians that are talking about how we actually reduce the abortion rate
Right.
without banning it. But all these guys are doing is saying things that people agree with so that they can get votes. And unfortunately, that is also um, winning over. You know, people like that. My campaign won by in a landslide. Uh, people didn't care about the entrepreneur that could fix things. They cared about the guy that was pro-Trump and pro-life, the
Right.
good little Christian boy, not the weird Hindu guy that wants to actually fix the road
Right.
and has a plan on how to fix the roads.
Right. I mean, I feel like we saw that in Tulsi's campaign because she sort of, I would say she ran a more pragmatic campaign than most of them did.
Mhm.
But it was when you said the hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15s, or when you focused on Medicare for all, or when you focused on saving the environment, which is such a strange concept that, a president is going to save the environment. But, you would go after all these, like you said, all these idyllic issues that some of them the president doesn't even have any power over, but people don't care. They don't care about hearing what the practical solutions are and what a president actually can do, or what a congressman actually can do. They care about those fiery red meat subjects, and yeah, I mean it's totally true. It's absolutely right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, what's going on with you in the future? You doing more campaigning? What after this year is over? What are you thinking of doing?
that is a great question that I really wish I knew the answer to. Um, uh, at the moment, I know what I'm doing for the next 5 weeks or so. After that, there are a couple of options. I might be working with Thomas Quiter on his New York State Senate campaign. That's another good example of a very, very, very winnable libertarian campaign. It is a two-way race against a rhino in a 40% Democrat district that they just didn't bother putting anybody up because they always lose, because it's always that 40%. They've never come anywhere as close to a majority, so they've given up. But this district includes Binghamton, New York, which is like one of the bluest cities. Uh, we could legitimately win this race because we could get the entire Democrat vote plus the good on guns and taxes vote, and we could win that. But so I might be working with him. I might be working on another campaign with Yal, or I might be going back to the city to start working on my own campaign. I have pretty much no idea.
Yeah. Well, are you going to be doing your YouTube channel still? Are you going to have time to upload videos, or is that?
Hopefully, I didn't have any privacy in Michigan to really work on anything like that. Luckily, I have my own room here in Ohio. Hopefully, I will have a similar setup, or at least a space that I can use while I'm in New Hampshire. Because there are a lot of people that I want to have on. I've met a decent amount of people in the last couple of months, and I haven't made a video. So hopefully, yes, the YouTube channel should be back up and running within the next probably week and a half or so.
Right. Yeah. Everyone who's watching this, you really should check him out. He does better videos than me. Frankly, he has time to look into all the issues and really lay things out. So definitely go check him out. Fight for Liberty, and checking him out on Twitter too. I'll just give you the last word if you want anyone to. If there's any way people can help support what you're doing or follow you on social media or whatever they can do.
I mean, yeah, definitely check me out on most of the social medias. It's at Fight for Liberty. Same with the YouTube channel. There's some good information there. If you want to really get involved, there is a join page on the website, fightforliberty.com. We'll match you up with a candidate or an organization or something in your area. We'll find a way for you to really actually help the liberty movement if you're just kind of sitting at home watching these videos going, what can I do? Because you don't need to move to a random state and knock doors for 48 hours a week like I do. You can be a keyboard warrior and still make change, but coordination is key on that. And so if you want to get involved, fightforliberty.com/join. That's about it for me, good sir.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on again. We'll do it again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. All right. We'll catch you guys on the next show.
All right.